Hi, my name is Ashley. My partner Maya and I decided to do our LibGuide on the Kennedy Space Center. After talking for a little bit, we discovered Maya and I are both from the Space Coast. Those of you that are unfamiliar with what that means, Brevard County is usually referred to as the Space Coast since that is where the Kennedy Space Center is located here in the state. And actually we're both from the Vieira area, so that was kind of cool. Anytime the Space Center launches off a rocket, the windows rattle a little bit. So it was really something that was kind of close to home for us and thought that it would be an interesting topic. Our LibGuide is mostly finished. There's still some fine tuning that we need to do for it. If you see here on the main page, we have a nice big picture of the Kennedy Space Center. We've also included some information about ourselves. This here is Maya. If you scroll down a little bit, this is about me. My name is Ashley again. Okay, there's a little bit of a background here. Just welcome to our LibGuide. It was initially built in 1949 as a missile launching base and has steadily grown ever since then. It is built on over 140,000 acres of land, which is kind of off over there on its own. If you've never been over there, I highly encourage you to do so. It's really something to see. Okay, so as far as organization, we have a little introduction here. We've also included our Library of Congress subject headings. As you can see, we have quite a wide array of subject headings. Okay, and down a little bit further, I've also included the Library of Congress browsing areas. So if you want to find more information, these are the subject areas you can look under on the Library of Congress to glean more information about the Kennedy Space Center. Okay, scroll back up here slowly so nobody gets dizzy. Okay, when we were starting out, there's really a lot of information about the Kennedy Space Center, and one of the hardest parts was kind of knowing where to start. Okay, how do you store all of this information, all of this history, down into something that's kind of focused and on topic to where there would be enough information out there? We decided to focus on 4 aspects. That would be history of the Kennedy Space Center, current projects that the Space Center is working on, okay, a little bit about tourism in the visitor complex, and also about the educational programs that are offered at Kennedy Space Center and by NASA. Okay, so we'll start here with the history. Click on that. Okay, we have a bunch of different sections here. We have early satellites, okay, that were launched, going all the way back to 1958. So that's kind of cool. Okay, we also have space shuttle missions. I don't know if you know this or not, but actually the Space Center is not running their shuttle missions right now. A lot of people who were working on these have had to be relocated because they have downgraded. Okay, the final landing was in 2011. They are supposed to be bringing back the shuttle program here, but I am not sure yet as of the timeline for that. That is still to be determined. Okay, scroll down a little bit further here. Okay, Apollo missions. Those were a very important aspect of the Space Center. Okay. I also want to add in a few more reference materials here that you can learn more about the history of the Kennedy Space Center. So that's still on my to-do list for the LibGuide. Okay, then we have a list of resources specifically for this page. Okay, I believe our total resources at this point were about 28 or 29 resources in, so we are almost finished with this project. All right, current projects. Okay, the Juno mission, the International Space Station. Okay, SpaceX, these are the rockets that rattle our windows every time they go off. Okay, Mars. And again, a list of resources specifically for this page. Right, tourism in the visitors complex. When I was talking to Maya, she says that she has visited the complex quite a few times, but kind of it's a general idea of what goes on. It's not really too in depth once you go over there. But really, when she was doing research for this project, you get really in depth about specific topics, and she really feels that her interest in the Space Center has gone up significantly by doing this research because now she has more of a broad idea of what is actually going on behind the scenes and how important it is. I actually worked at the visitor complex after high school. So I've worked at the visitor center. They also have kind of outposts that you travel to by bus. So I've worked at those as well, and I've seen a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and it really is very interesting. A lot more goes on there than you really would think. Okay. So again, visitors complex, this is just kind of an overview. Okay, they have the rocket garden, so you can kind of see life-size scaled models. Okay, scroll down a little bit here. The astronaut memorial, the Atlantis. Okay. And this is actually a new attraction, the Heroes and Legends Astronaut Hall of Fame. So this is really recently added, and they're still not quite finished with it. It is going to open in November of 2016. Okay, it is a virtual sort of interactive display, and it should be really cool. I'd be excited to go and see it. I'll just scroll back up here. One more section. Okay, and educational programs. Okay, NASA's really involved in education, things like STEM and robotics, and really moving into the next generation of where we are going with our space program. Okay, one of the things that they do is they give grants to local schools here, and essentially what that does is fund the robotics programs. So the first one is done by the Ground Systems and Development Operations. So essentially they help schools travel to competitions. You know, a lot of those things cost a lot of money. So they help them to be able to pay for travel expenses and competition expenses, and NASA goes there and scouts these out, looking for the next big thing, the next big idea. Okay. And the same kind of thing they hold with the Swarmathon here. They hold competitions for colleges, specifically ones that have a large population of minorities. Okay, the first time was actually held this year, and so that was pretty exciting. They had a large turnout. Okay, and again, it is STEM focus, which is the science and the math and engineering. Okay, I'm sure most of you have heard about Space Camp. Everybody wants to go to Space Camp when they're little. Okay, and lastly is an astronaut training program. That's kind of a cool feature where you actually get to do the kind of training experiences that real astronauts get to do. It's intense and it's very limited. So they only take a few people at a time, so it's very one-on-one and very intense. Okay, as far as like what went behind the scenes for the project, like I said before, kind of the hardest part was finding out where to start. There's just so much information out there, and it can get overwhelming really quickly. When I was talking to Maya about this project, a lot of the resources came from the USF library because that is a database that is, kind of that we have on hand and easy access to. If you type in kind of general descriptions, like space program or the Kennedy Space Center, you literally are going to get thousands of results, okay, because every little thing that contains the word space or center or program or Kennedy is going to pop up. So really once you kind of learn how to narrow it down to specific criteria, use those quotation marks to include whole subjects such as space shuttle missions or, Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex, that really will give you more of the information that you are looking for. We really focused on having reliable information. If the information was not published by a reliable source or reliable publisher, or if we couldn't find any information on the author, we discarded those resources because we really wanted strong information. If you actually look at the resources, a lot of the information does come from the Kennedy Space Center website, Delaware North Companies, that's what this DNC is right here. Okay, they run the visitors complex. And, straight from NASA itself, because that is really going to be a lot of the most reliable information. When we were using the USF database, we also checked on the dates for publications. So when we were looking for current projects, of course, we want publications that are more up to date, more recent. But when we were looking at the history of the Kennedy Space Center, we wanted primary source material, so things that were actually written during the 60s, during when these things were happening, because it's stronger to hear what's going on from that time period. Additionally, there are a lot of articles that talk about the science and the engineering behind the Space Center, and they're really quite technical, comprised of a lot of charts and things like that. We did not utilize those because that would not be good information for the general public to get too technical. Um, Maya's contributions to this were mostly the history and the current projects happening at KSC. She also did include some information about the visitors complex. She also comprised all of the subject headings for the Library of Congress, which that was awesome. Okay, as my contributions, I also worked on the history of the Space Center here with the early satellites. I mostly put together the NASA educational programs, and I also did the classifications for the Library of Congress. Okay, so really, Maya and I have both put in a lot. We've contributed really to each of these pages. She's done some, I've done some. I've gone through, I like to dabble in graphic design. So I've really gone through and made sure everything was nice and organized. The pictures look nice. They fit on the page nicely, things like that. But I really feel that between her and I, we've really established a nice LibGuide that would be very informational for anyone who is interested in the Kennedy Space Center. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much.